What's up? I'm back here today, and we're gonna have 3 little strange mini stories, I'm gonna say. Cause I don't feel like each of them is big enough for its own video. I know, for the person that posts less than 1 minute long videos. That's weird to say, but let's get right into this. So, I'm not really gonna have titles for each of these. Also, my apologies if it sounds weird. I'm recording in my bedroom instead of my closet, because when I tried recording in my closet, my phone suddenly turned off, which was weird because it was charged and it just suddenly turned off. Anyway, just to get right into it. So, a strange thing I do is every once in a while, whether I'm alone or around people, it doesn't matter the setting, it doesn't matter what's going on, where we are, who's there, this will always happen to me. I'd say every few days or so, I'll get this immense feeling of dread and I'll feel like someone is standing like right behind me. Not like stalking, I mean someone is standing right behind you, ready to grab your neck or something. And I always know that no one's there, but I always just, whether it's my curiosity or just some weird need I have, I always feel like I have to turn around. So I'll whip my head around and nothing's there. And everyone around me, or if I'm sitting at home alone, then I'm just like, why did I do that? I'm such an idiot. I shouldn't have done that. But if I'm with other people, like my parents or my friends, they're like, yo, what happened? Did you hear something? And I was like, no, it's fine. 'Cause every time I ever try to explain it to people, they say I'm crazy and I'm just overreacting. But I just feel like someone is standing there. And I can fully well know that I'm like, it doesn't matter if I have my back to a wall, it doesn't matter if I'm sitting in a chair, it doesn't matter where I am, I always feel like someone's standing right behind me, staring into my soul. And I just feel like I have to turn around. Go on, cat. Sorry about that. My cat came in here. So, then, and this will happen for basically everything. I don't know why I do it. I don't know. And I've never been right. I've never turned around and actually seen anyone there. It is always just absolutely empty. Not even like, when you're in a big group of people in like a really crowded room, you can turn around and at least see like another group of people behind you. No, it is always dead quiet behind me. Like it's a wall or it's just a blank empty space. And I'm like, what was that? 'Cause I could swear, I could feel someone's presence there. Anyway, the next story we have. Another one of the weird things I believed for a long time. I always had this superstition that someone was living in our house. And you're like, oh, of course people live in your house. It's a house, dum-dum. And I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. You ever seen, alright, I can't remember the name of the horror movie, but it's I always feel like someone is living in our house. Not like my family, not my sisters. I always mean like someone's living in the walls. Now, you might be like, why? Why do you think someone's living in your house? Well, I have a lot of instances of this, in fact. Like, the main contender that happens a lot. So, I live in the basement of my family's house, and usually I stay up a lot later than the rest of my family, and I just kind of stay up, watch YouTube, play games, and at this point, I've gotten used to all the footsteps and stomping and whatever upstairs, because, if you're gonna live in the basement, you just gotta get used to that. So, to the point where I don't even notice it anymore. So, I'll be standing around, I'll be sitting there alone in the middle of the night, doing nothing, and I'll hear footsteps upstairs. And they don't sound loud and fast enough to be my sister's. They're not like banging on the ground like a giant coming through like my dad, and they don't sound like someone wearing high heels like my mom. It sounds like someone sneaking around upstairs. It sounds like I'm walking upstairs. Which is weird because I'm downstairs, sitting in the middle of the basement, no lights on, looking at my phone, probably watching memes or something. And then I'll hear, and I'm like, what's that? And I'll sit there and I'll listen to the footsteps. And you might be like, well, isn't it just one of your pets? Alright, so I can also tell when it's one of my pets. It's not the cat, otherwise I wouldn't be able to hear it. And the cat's always like sitting right next to me downstairs. And it's not one of the dogs, because I would hear their nails clacking against the ground. It sounds like someone's walking around barefoot upstairs. And I'll sit there quietly for like 5 minutes just listening to the footsteps. And I'll assume it's like, I'll either freak out and assume it's a burglar and come up with a weapon waiting to hurl it at someone, or I'll just sit down here and wait until it goes down. And in the few cases where I do go upstairs just to see what it is, I see nothing. The dogs are asleep, like dead asleep, couldn't have just gotten up to get water or anything. My parents are upstairs asleep. My sisters are upstairs asleep. They sleep on the top floor. So I also would have had to hear them going down the stairs, but I never hear them going down the stairs. It's just feet walking across the cold wood floors. And sometimes I can be like, oh yeah, maybe that's just the floor creaking because it's an old house. Not a really old house. It's like a maybe 7. It's a look at me, don't even know how old my own house is. It's like an 11-year-old house. And that's kind of old, but not old enough to start hearing creaky stuff like this is the Haunted Mansion. So I'm just hearing creak, 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 and I'm just sitting here downstairs listening to my phone or just reading memes on my phone, or drawing or whatever, and then suddenly it just disappears. But other weirder stuff has happened besides that. I remember one time I was walking around in the basement, talking to myself like a crazy person as usual, and I was talking about the specific thing that I always feel like there's someone in the house. A cat was sitting right next to me on the couch, and I'm walking around in TV room, my bedroom and stuff, and then I hear a creak from inside my closet, and I just freak out, because you don't go from talking about someone's in your house to suddenly they are in your house. I was like, do I open the door? Do I just stand here? What was that? And it didn't sound like, oh, maybe that was just a bug. Maybe that was just, no. Like, that sounded like someone knocked on the door. And this is especially creepy because my closet is right below the stairs to go upstairs. And it's like a really small closet. Like, if someone were to be hiding in my closet, they'd have to be really short or like the best contortionist ever to hide in a suitcase or something. And every once in a while, I go in my closet, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way someone could be in my closet. But every once in a while, I'll hear a creak from inside, or I'll hear something fall from a shelf, and it'll just terrify me to even go in the room. And then I'm like, what if it's in the boiler room? I mean, not the boiler room, the heater room. The boiler room. What if it's in the heater room right across from it? Because I never go in there, and that would seemingly have enough room to fit a person. And I've never fully been in there before. At most, I'll like throw a box of junk in there and then never touch it for like the next 5 years. But I've never heard a sound from that. So, is there just bugs in my closet or something? And then, I nearly had the biggest case for someone living in my house once. I was staying at home while the rest of my family went on vacation. I was watching the dogs, staying at home, just enjoying doing nothing. And then, it's like 11 in the morning, and I had stayed up all night. And it's raining outside. And then I suddenly hear the sink turn on. And it sounded clear as day like someone had turned the sink on. I was like, there is no way something could make that noise without someone actually having turned on the sink. So I sit there, and then it turns off. And I'm like, whew, maybe it's just the rain, maybe it's just and then the shower turns on. And this time, I was like, that sounds just like the shower. That doesn't sound like rain outside. That sounds just dead up like the shower. And I was like, what the hell? What do I do? Is someone in the house? Do I get a gun? What do I do? Who takes a shower and washes their hands this early? reminder, I'm the only person in the house. The dogs are like are lying right next to me. The cat's downstairs. So how is there water coming from upstairs? Well, later on, I told my parents about this, and they were like, oh, it's probably just the water going through the pipes. I was like, I've heard water going through the pipes before. That was not it. That's not what was it. Because I've heard water coming through the pipes in my house before. That is not what it sounded like. That sounded like someone walked upstairs, turned on the sink, turned it off, then got in the shower. Anyway. Oh, dang, this video is getting long. The final story I have is the ghost cat. And this is going to sound even crazier than the last few stories. So, ever since I was young, I would occasionally see this gray cat. And I do have a gray cat right now, but it does not look anything like that gray cat that I used to see. I never had a friend with a gray cat. None of the families in our neighborhood had gray cats. It was just really weird. So, I remember the first time I saw it, I was hanging out with my friend Alexis. We were sitting in our living room, and I saw this cat walk around this table and then disappear. I was like, hey, Alexis, I didn't know you had a cat. And she was like, we don't have a cat. And I was like, well, I just saw a cat walk right by. And I was like, oh, I was just probably crazy. The next time, I was at my friend Madison's house. And so her mom called her into the kitchen to talk to her about something. And so I was sitting in her bedroom, just sitting around playing with toys. And for some reason, I looked out into the hallway, and I saw this cat run into the bathroom. And I was like, oh, I didn't know she had a cat. Because to this point, she just had Yorkies. So I went into the bathroom to see the cat. Because, of course, if you're an 8-year-old, you're going to go look at the cat. And it was nowhere. And it's not like a really big bathroom where it could have hid anywhere. Like, all that was in there was a sink, the bathtub, and the toilet. I looked underneath the sink, looked in the bathtub. I was like, hey, Madison, where'd your cat go? And she's like, what cat? I don't have a cat. My mom's allergic to cats. And I was like, I swear, I saw this gray Persian cat, like, walk right into the bathroom. And she's like, oh, you're crazy. But the real kicker, it does sound just a little questionable. I was walking around in my basement, as usual. This was right around when I had my room moved to the basement. So, I was walking around. It was really cold. It was middle of the winter. Had the dog sitting right next to me. And I was talking to myself like a maniac, like I'm doing right now. And then the gray, big, fat, fluffy, gray Persian cat runs right past me. And it's not like a normal cat running past you. No, this thing, like, it ran so fast, it made me, you know how in cartoons and stuff, a cartoon character will run past another one, and they'll spin around and be like, whoa. Yeah, imagine that, but in reality. I'm walking around like a normal person, and then this cat books it across the hallway and nearly knocks me over. And I'm like, what was that? And I look around, and it's nowhere. The dog's, like, looking at me like I'm crazy. I didn't have a cat at this point. I got a cat, like, a few years later. I was like, what was that? And it wasn't, like, before, where I only saw the end of the cat. I saw the whole cat run right past me. And it just disappeared into the wall. I was like, what was that? And every time I tell these stories to people, they're like, you're just crazy. And I'm like, I know what I saw. I would tell you if I was tired. I would tell you if I was feeling a little crazy that day. I would tell you if it was a dream. This actually happened. Normal day up until that point. Suddenly a gray cat out of nowhere. Anyway, that was some stories of the weird stuff that's happened to me and the weird stuff that I do. So, hope you all enjoy. See you all in the next video.